For those of you who tune into this video channel, you know we cover enterprise security. And I've got to tell you, AI has been an important part of it. We've seen all sorts of different dimensions. But today, I want to show you the real deal. I've got somebody here, a friend of mine for many years, runs a cool company, and he's going to tell us about how generative AI is changing the nature of risk and how his platform is something that I think might be a must-do if you're a CISO or if you run an enterprise security team. So stick around. I think this is a video you're going to watch. Don't go anywhere. I want you to watch this. So we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Hi, it's Ed Amoroso from TAG. How are you doing? Here for, I think, a really important discussion with my friend Yaki Feidelson, who runs Varonis. You've seen him here on our channel. I sat through a couple of briefings in the last few weeks and saw, I think, sort of both the promise and the risk of what generative AI can do in an organization. And I've been sort of mulling through, how do we fix this? I think Varonis has a big chunk of the answer to that. Nobody has the full chunk. AI changes every 2 minutes. But I'm going to ask Yaki to share with us what his team's doing. I think this is as close to a you must do as I've seen in a long time. So, Yaki, how are you doing?
Doing very well, thanks.
So you have been busy, haven't you?
Very busy.
The last time we were together, we didn't really even talk about generative AI.
Yeah.
And now we are. I think we're going to spend some time
it's all over now.
Let's dive right in. You guys have noticed some real risk around generative AI and how it kind of exposes over-permissioning and problems and this and that. Let's start with some of the problems you guys see your customers having, and then I'm going to ask you how you guys are solving it. But let's start with the problem.
So Gen AI essentially is shining a lot of light on the data security problem. Yeah. And I think that Congress banned Copilot this week. And what happened, I call it a Pac-Man from hell. So Gen AI is going and just taking any data that it can in what we call the blast radius. And the reality is that around 90% of the data that a user can access is not relevant for them. So you have this robot that has massive productivity gain that mine all the data. So when users are starting to use it, and we see it every time we are doing these AI readiness assessments, they enabling Copilot and then they stop it because it brings you so much data that you don't need to look at. So the first time it happened by mistake, but then it's triggered a lot of curiosity from the users, and you have the prompt, the Gen AI that teach them how to do more sophisticated queries, that a lot of critical data ending up in the wrong hands. But not only that, it generates high value information products at a staggering rate. So what happened if you are not going to solve this problem immediately, you are not going to have any benefits and generate tremendous risk. So this is really what we see.
Let me see if I'm going to see if I can play it back, see if I'm understanding it. So for many years, you've taught me that companies have data security problems all over the place. But I think you would agree that until now, it might have been possible to sweep some of that under the rug, over permissioning, things like that. You may or may not have noticed, but now with generative AI, the LLM finds the problem so easily. If you run the query, if Mary Smith is over permissioned, she may not have known it before, but you're certainly going to know it now. So has this just brought a problem that was already there to light? Like, it doesn't seem like it's creating a new problem, it's just making it so clear.
It's actually both.
Is it both? Is it, because it does generate more data.
Once it's so clear, but now you have this very sophisticated search engine that finds the data, but also create a lot of data.
More.
It can condense.
You're right.
You know,
aggregating.
Exactly, and tens of terabytes very fast to high-value information products that are in the wrong hands and completely out of policy. If you will think about Varonis said, so we build robots that remediate access control without breaking any business problem. So we take that and make sure that only the right people can access the right data. The other thing we are doing, we automatically classify data extremely accurately and label it. So we do it before the Gen AI, before the Copilot, and we also do it after with the data that the LLMs create. So only the right people can access the right data. We make sure that only the data in the policy, but not only that. So this is the basis of it. And we really build on what we have done so many years. So it was Gen AI and Varonis was a perfect fit. But then we saw three other problems. One is the prompt problem, that people need to use it in the right way, and many times, as I just mentioned, the LLM teaching the users how to use it in the wrong way. The other thing you have is just risky users, and then the activity of the Copilot. So we're doing prompt security, we identify risky users and risky services, and also make sure we have a very clear audit trail to know how the Copilot and these LLMs are working, and it just works extremely well.
You know what it reminds me of? I remember when we all stopped using AltaVista and went to Google. And it all of a sudden the internet was this really interesting place.
Yeah.
Not that it wasn't interesting before, but you know what I mean, shed a light on everything. And there's a guy named Johnny Long that I knew who wrote a book called Hacking with Google Search. It was something like that. And I think it was the birth of the digital protection industry, where you search around the dark web and you look for reputations. A lot of companies that do that. I think in a sense, these generative AI models look like an acceleration of what you guys do. It's taken something that we knew was a problem, and now I said, like in the intro, I think it's a must do. And are you hearing that from, like, do customers get this? Like when I heard it, I went, whoa, and I never say whoa. Like, are you hearing that? Did they kind of get the point?
We hear it, and they get the point because it's inevitable, it's in their face. You just enable the thing
exactly
and you get
right.
data.
That's why I said I think you were sweeping it under the, sweeping under the carpet a little bit.
The reality, it's very interesting because almost every breach is a data breach. So the most important thing is to protect the data, and you need to do it in a very efficient way. But now, every user that's using these Copilots and LLMs is exposing the problem, and just make it orders of magnitudes bigger.
Is the Microsoft Copilot the biggest use case? Is that the one that comes up the most?
At this point, it's
we see that.
Yeah, at this point, Microsoft Copilot. And what happens is that that is very interesting for us, that Varonis and Microsoft now are really better together. It's 1 + 1 = 10. The Varonis robots are watching the Microsoft robots to make sure that you manage very well the tension between the biggest productivity tools for data, and to make sure that you are solving the data security problems without any effort. We always say it just humans can't manage the data security problem. It needs to be completely automatic. And this is what we're focused on, to make sure that we're building these robots and using AI in order to solve the data security problem.
I've seen some reference from Microsoft to you guys. Now that's starting.
Yeah, it's starting. We started to work together, and
I
it's
think
going well.
That's good. It's in their interest. Like, they're going to make $1 gazillion on these Copilots. It's an amazing product. We use it, but it does beg the need for complementary protection, and if it's not there, it's pretty frightening.
Without data security, an organization will be really focused about solving the data security problems. The risk will overcome the benefits very, very fast. It's a very risky proposition if it's not protected, if the data is not protected correctly. But if it is, it's unbelievable. It's just a game changer for organizations.
Is this like creating, I wonder if it's just like what next gen DSPM looks like, the idea of this symbiosis between AI and posture management. Is that a way of thinking about it?
I think that DSPM, essentially, it's a very, very small part of a data security problem. So if you look at most of the vendors, it's very interesting. At the end of the day, what we are doing is to make sure that automatically you don't have a data breach. This is the most important thing.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, Ed, once you have an identity, there is no perimeter. Okay, so it's very important to make sure that you don't have data security breaches. And most
also
of the
compliance too. You might have no breach, but if you have a compliance issue
that you can demonstrate,
it could be just
it's part
as
of
bad
it.
for
Exactly.
your career, right?
It's 100%.
Right.
You need to make sure, and the other thing that you can demonstrate compliance. And it's a massive problem at scale. So what most of the DSPM vendors are doing, it's the small tip of the iceberg, in a sense that these are static configuration with sample classification. But even on the visibility, you can't get anywhere. It adds some value, but you need to make sure you can classify all the data, as you know from from the bucket to the object, understanding how you're using all the data, understand the permission, which this is the core of all of it, and then you can get to the root cause and build these robots to automate remediation and have the scale for compliance report and things of this nature. What we have done, we understood it, and we took what we did with SaaS like 365, Salesforce, Google, Jira, and what we have done with on-prem with these massive NAS devices and brought it into the IaaS, into the infrastructure. We have second to none configuration, but our ability to classify continuously the data to make sure that it scales, to have all the activity and to enrich the data, that this is the basis of the technology. And on top of it, you need to build all the software production to make sure that you can solve it automatically. But there is another part of the story. First and foremost, you need a very strong UBA that sits on the identity on Active Directory, Entra ID, Okta, IAM, to make sure that bad actors can't get to the data. And then make sure that only the right identities and user can access the data. And once you have any behavioral problem, you identify it and get to the root cause in seconds. So the DSPM concept is very small part of a much bigger data security platform. And another thing, you and I, in our conversation, we talk about a lot of breaches. And if you look at the breaches, they always go from one data repository to the other. File shares, fund credentials, going to the S3, going through 365 and email. So if you are not sitting on the user directories and many data stores and be able to monitor the activity and build these usage profiles, there is no way that you can secure from breaches. And if you don't have the scale, you can't adhere to any compliance requirements.
Have you had to make changes to the platform for GenAI? You're describing your functionality. I'm wondering, have you been able to apply your technology directly to these use cases, or did you have to change anything?
No, I always say that I was the founder of Varonis twice. One when we started, and then several years ago when we build our SaaS platform, we just look at everything that we learn and we say, how can we automate everything? How can we automate everything completely? The reality, when we looked at it, we looked at the financial industry. And I said the security industry is upside down in a sense that perimeter security is essential. There are amazing companies, but it's a very small part. When you look at the financial industry, without a ledger, you can't do anything. You can't detect fraud. You really can't do anything. And most of the people are protected from fraud, and you know what's going on in your account because you have a ledger and it has the right usage profile and you know how to analyze it. Without a solution like ours, you don't know what's going on with your data. So if you think in probabilities, if your perimeter is failing, and as we said, if you have an identity and there is no perimeter, you're starting to see massive amount of damage. So we really build it completely to have automation, to solve the data protection completely automatically with these robots. So almost whatever you throw at us, we will solve it completely, because when you can understand what is critical, how people are using it, and use it to do effective remediation and have the enrichment to make sure that you can build this usage profile, you will solve the problem. So the underlying technology is to be able to solve any data security problem, and a byproduct of that is to make sure that you can adhere to any compliance that is coming your way. And then obviously, like the Copilot, you need to do some minor adjustments, but at the core, just the platform is perfectly built to automatically solve these problems.
A lot of the customers we deal with, when they hear posture, they think, fine, classified, document, done. But we're describing a much more dynamic situation. Is monitoring a better word than posture, maybe? I mean, I know you guys do that.
It's all together.
I wonder if it's a better word.
So as I said, you have some statistics configuration or misconfiguration. This is posture. The dynamic one and the hardest one is always the permissions. And then you have the activity and classification. To classify a small sample of data, it's easy. To classify a petabyte of data, accurately and to understand, really to boil the ocean, it's very hard. And we are at a place, Ed, that without the right AI, you will not be able to solve the data security and the data management problem. But in order to do that, you need to normalize the data very effectively. We believe that you need to solve this problem completely automatically for organizations, and this is what we are doing, and thankfully it's working very well.
We've noticed a lot of CISOs asking us maybe 3-4 times more than in the past about managed services.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are doing some of that now, as I
Yeah.
understand. Tell me what the deal is.
So we have our MDDR, Managed Detection and Response, and this stemmed from watching like 150 big breaches. So as you know, we have a world.
And also, I'm sure people asking, because they do ask us,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I notice. They
So-
didn't used to, but they do now.
So this what happened. So you had a lot of managed services. So usually when there is a big breach, organizations have all the security stack, but no one can answer the question, what happened to the data? What data got stolen?
Right.
What data got touched,
Yeah,
got
been-
damaged?
Been there, done that.
Change.
Yeah.
So, like everyone else. So we look like in 150 big breaches, and they have all the security stack. And as we said, on the perimeter, you can do 99.9% right, but when you fail, when you have
Yeah.
50,000 endpoints and ways to get in, and you have this blast radius, you will have a lot of damage. So usually what happens, they call an IR company, pay them $1 million, they tell them this is patient
Mandiant or something like that.
something like
Yeah.
that. They said, this is patient 0. You need to restore your Active Directory. What happened to the data? We don't know. Massive claims, big liabilities. You don't know what is going on. Essentially, data security is the first thing you need to do, and the last thing that will save you if you want to secure data. Start from the asset and go back. So this is exactly what we have done. So we have world-class IR team and MDDR team, and we build Athena AI. So we build our own AI that let any regular user to be a world-class security experts, and we have world-class security experts, and we take so much telemetry, streaming of data that we can really enrich, and our people looking at it. So once your perimeter failed, we will solve your problem. It's very hard to solve it with a SIEM or any other approach. So our people looking at it and making sure, looking at Active Directory, as I said, Enter ID, all the data, proxy, DNS, and if we see any abnormal behavior, we tell you, we can kill it, or any abnormal behavior to the data. And the result is that 24/7, you have the best people in the world making sure that your data is protected. Most probably, bad actors will not get into the data. If they get to the data, we usually now the access controlling 90% without breaking any business process. At the beginning of the malicious activity, we stop them, and then we come in and we look at all the estate, but we can tell you what was the root cause and what data, where you have lasting damage, and we get to it extremely fast. And this works very, very well for us. It works extremely well. So managed detection and response. And the way technologically, the way that we did it, we took this layer of generative AI and we took our analysts that are the best in the world in protecting data, and with on our side, with our own robots, just enhance it to make sure that we have such a force multiplier. We are a software company, we are not a services company, to make sure that a customer that buy this service from us will be able to sleep at night and have the best people protecting him. Ed, we need to bring to security what the financial industry brought to fraud. Almost any business have a bank account, but they don't have people that are trying to build a ledger and find fraud. The financial services companies, the credit card issuer, the banks, they are doing it for you. And this is exactly what we believe that needs to happen with data. You need to focus on your business, and we will make sure that your data is protected. The Varonis promise, if you will, Ed, is that you will not have a data breach.
I want to take a specific use case and make sure that people watching know what they should be doing. Put your sales cap on now. I'm asking you to do that. Mm-hmm. So if, let's say I'm a bank or something, and I have, my data security is what it is. You have something. There's nobody's greenfield. Everybody's got something. But probably, if somebody's watching right now, they're thinking, probably one of the weaker parts of my business. And now I've got these AI working groups in the bank that are all using AI to do this and that. The CTO and CIO are very excited. My security team's nervous. I'm that. And now I'm starting to get a sense that AI is exacerbating and heightening awareness of this problem I have. What should they be buying from you? Should they buy your platform, your service? They buy both? Should they send you an email? Tell me what they should do.
Yeah, they should have a platform. So
start with the platform.
But to say the sense, when you will start to use AI full force, it will, forgive my language, it will hit you in the face. You will see that you will have a massive problem and many flows to get to the data. So you have 365 and Salesforce.com and third-party application and Azure Blob and Azure AD. Yes. And all the RDS and you have Entra ID and IAM and Active Directory. You need to do three things. You need to identify and classify and label the critical data and make sure that only the right people can access the right data. This is the holy grail, and we are doing it completely automatically. The other thing you need to do is just to have a platform like ours that give you the understand what is a regular user, what is a service account, what is a VIP.
You'll do a POC.
Yes, through a POC, but let's say that it's
call you guys up, you roll a POC.
You roll a POC immediately.
Would you demonstrate
everything?
In some sense
yeah,
how the Gen AI?
You will get everything.
I think that demo.
You will get to value, yeah?
That's one people should see.
I
saw it. It was like, whoa.
The demo is critical, but the overall value is, and then we will understand any abnormal behavior. We'll get to forensics in seconds. And really, for almost every organization, the only thing that you need to do is help us set up some collectors and then pick up the phone.
So then you layer the service onto the platform.
We'll layer the service onto the platform.
So you wouldn't normally start with the MDDR, you'd start by doing a platform deployment?
Yeah, we do the platform deployment and the
MDDR comes
with
from
it.
that.
Yeah,
okay.
The MDDRs come with it. As much as you have more licenses, it has more benefit. And what will happen is that you immediately will be protected and you will need to do very little. Our robots and our team will do almost all the heavy lifting for you. A bit of set up the robots with us and tell us, where you want to start. But very fast today, 5,000 user shop with, a lot of data with Azure, AWS, big Salesforce, Box, massive 365, on-prem data, as you know, all ransomware is coming today to all these on-prem CIFS environments, some on-prem Unix. You just need several collectors, and we're literally going to do everything for you. The Varonis robots will do everything for you, and the best people in the world will look at your data and into your Active Directory, proxy, DNS, 24/7, and God forbid, even if you have a breach, will come 30 minutes to ransomware, just best in class in the industry, and you will be protected. So most probably you will not have a data breach, and if something will happen, the damage will be very small, and you will get to a root cause like that.
I'm going to say something, and correct me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. Feels like the problem here is more urgent for larger than, say, SMB. Do I have that right? I mean, not that SMB doesn't have problems, but I'm feeling like the people who should be doing this immediately are complex infrastructure, it's sensitive data. Bigger companies really need to do something.
It's for everyone, but the reality is it's very interesting. Most of the attacks are happening on repositories that have the most collaboration and data flow. And
I know you guys sell to everybody. No, but I mean, if you're watching, a bigger company do this yesterday.
But bigger repositories, and I just think that it honestly, it's not an exaggeration. It will be very hard to survive and thrive if you will not have a data security in place. And LLMs are here, and LLMs are real. It will take some time to deploy them. And the other thing that you see is many times people using, let's say, an OpenAI private instance, and they mining data on a SharePoint Online or on-prem or an Azure Blob or S3 or an S3 bucket. If you are not ahead of it, you will have massive damage. Think about what's going on with GitHub that is misconfigured and people finding secrets. If you will not be ahead of it, a big breach will happen. And we see what happened with cryptocurrency, how easy it is to monetize cyber risk. And we also see that what's going on with state actors, very sophisticated attacks. And you have so much visibility to all the attacks, almost all of them are data breaches. So this whole notion of I'm spending a fortune on my perimeter security and I need extremely sophisticated people in order to manage it is a losing proposition.
Yeah.
If you want to protect your data, start with data protection and make sure that you have robots that can solve it, because this is something that with humans or the wrong technology will have a lot of busy work that will end up in a breach. And this is you and I saw many breaches, and thankfully it's not happening to most people most time, but when this happens, it's bad. And then and people need to really avoid it, and bad actors taking a lot of data. We see this wave with ransomware, they're coming in waves, and then when they are coming, they're exfiltrating a lot of data, and there is just so much damage. And with Gen AI, the potential for damage are massive, but the good news that the potential for productivity gains is massive. So if you have the protection in place, your organization can go to completely different heights by using AI, because AI is a phenomenal thing overall.
You gonna come back in a few months and tell me how you guys are doing with this?
I'm always coming back in.
Your company just keeps getting bigger. Pretty soon you're not going to talk to us little peons anymore.
No, always, Ed.
Thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Always wonderful.
Thank you
Good
so
luck.
much. Thank
And
you
for
so
those of you watching, we'll see you next time.